Hello everyone, I hope you're all keeping really well. I'm going to do another workshop with you guys, some more sewing. We're going to make a bird out of fabric. There's some fiddly bits, there's some not so fiddly bits. It's really fun and I love this template that I'm going to send over for you. There's the belly of the bird. It's quite straightforward, it's just two shapes. So there's the belly, and then for the top of the bird I've chosen some blue fabric there. So you will need some wadding or stuffing for inside the bird, some needle and thread, and the template, some buttons maybe for eyes, and some needles to hold the fabric in place when you do some stitching. And also something to mark around the template when you transfer the shape onto the fabric, and then to cut it out you'll need some scissors. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start cutting out my template. It's quite good to be pretty specific with this template. There is some leeway on the edges of for where you sew around the bird. But it's good to be specific. So first I'm just cutting out the paper, and then I'm going to make my way around that line. It's a hand stitch bird, so you won't need a sewing machine or anything. And I've marked out the hem allowance. The other thing about this pattern is that the top of the bird is actually going to be used for a folded over piece of fabric. So I'll show you what I mean in a minute. It sounds it's more simple than it looks. So I've just chosen, I'm going to make a blue bird. I've chosen some blue fabric and some pale blue fabric of an old shirt. And yeah, make sure you ask permission before you go cutting up some clothes at home. And also I've pulled the wadding that I'm using out of an old pillow that I didn't want. And also I had some sheep's wool. So you might have an old pillow lying around that somebody might not mind you using. This is hand stitching again, so it may need some assistance, but it's quite straightforward. Hopefully this video will be able to show you how to do it in an easy way. So I've got my two templates, and first I'm going to make the body of the bird there. And I've written on the top fold, which is to remind me that when I draw this shape onto my fabric, I want to fold that fabric over first, because that piece of that template is going to be doubled up, and it's going to make both sides of the bird. So I've got my blue fabric, I folded it in half, and where that crease is at the top there, or the bottom of your video, that's where I'm going to put the top of the template. So I'm just showing you that I've folded it in half. And then where it says fold, I'm going to put that on that folded bit of fabric. So I'm actually going to cut out double amount of fabric. I'm just going to pin that in place to make sure it doesn't move whilst I cut it. I also realise at this point that I don't draw around the fabric, and you'll see that I get into difficulty, which is why the pen would have been a good idea at this point. But I still cut out a relatively alright shape. Also, my scissors are really blunt, so I think you're going to do much better than me on this particular part of the process of making the bird. But I really love doing these, and I think I just got a bit overexcited and forgot to draw around the fabric. But what you might want to do at this point, instead of cutting it straight out with the template pinned on like I'm doing here, is to just draw around that template on the fabric, maybe with some chalk or a pen that you don't mind showing, and then you'll find it a lot easier to cut around, and also a lot easier to get a specific shape for your bird. So yeah, here I am trying to cut that out. So I'm just showing you that I've got those two bits, that fabric's doubled over there, and so I'm not cutting that fabric fold in half. So I'm leaving it attached, and I'm just starting at the top of the head where those little dotted lines are, from the top of the beak all the way around the bird's beak and all the way around the belly and the tail. I'm going to cut the fabric into that shape, but the top of the bird is going to stay as a fold with the fabric, and you'll see what it looks like once I take the paper off. So I've just cut some cut this fabric with some very blunt scissors, as you can see. So this is kind of carrying on the nature theme of hopefully all the workshops that I've been doing here. These aren't directly related to the honeybee or hexagons, but there's some stitching again, and also you might have also been hearing some really lovely birdsong in your garden. I've got loads of sparrows in my garden. I'm lucky to have a garden, and I've been giving them some bird feed. So this is kind of carrying on that nature theme. And as you can see now, I've cut out that template and I've opened it up into sort of a butterfly flower shape, and you can see that there's two beaks there, and so it's doubled, which is why you want to keep the fold in the middle. I do hope that's clear from the video or my talking. Here's the belly template. So now I've chosen an old shirt, still with buttons on, which I might use as the eyes. And I have permission from whoever gave me the shirt, and I'm cutting, I'm just drawing around this one this time, so I'm actually going to be marking out my fabric, which is going to be a lot easier. I'm using a bright red pen, but I don't mind that it will possibly show, although later on it might not show, because when we stitch the bird we're going to be then sewing it and then turning it inside out. So, but if you're worried about that pen mark showing on the bird when you've finished it, perhaps use a pencil instead, or maybe some chalk if you've got any. So I'm just cutting this around the shape of the belly now, roughly at first, and then I'm going to go back and do it more specifically. After I've done this, the next stage will be needle and thread, and we're going to be doing some sewing. So you will need your pins and a threaded needle, and maybe some assistance with that as well. You can make this template any size. I've just done it this size so that it can fit on a piece of paper for you to download and print off, but you can probably draw it. I would think you'd be do a fantastic drawing of a larger bird or even a smaller bird, but this is quite an easy size to start with. So I've just cut my fabric and I'm going to then set them out, and the next one will be how to stitch them together.